I am 71 years old, and every morning at 6:15 a.m. I wake before the sun. Old habits do not retire when you do. The house is quiet at that hour. The heating clicks on with a dry metallic sigh. The pipes murmur behind the walls, and the coffee machine, an old stainless steel Cuisinart I bought in 2014, gurgles like it has secrets of its own. I measure 2 level scoops of Colombian roast, no more, no less. My late wife, Margaret, used to say I treated coffee like a laboratory experiment. Margaret has been gone for 6 years. Pancreatic cancer. For months from diagnosis to funeral. I still keep her porcelain sugar bowl on the shelf, though I take my coffee black now. No sugar. No softness. I live alone in a 2-bedroom ranch house in Cedar Grove, New Jersey. At least, that is what the mail says. Legally, things are more complicated. 3 years ago, on March 12, 2023, I signed documents transferring the title of this house to my son, Daniel. Estate planning, he called it. To avoid probate, Dad. It's just paperwork. Just paperwork. I had sold my auto repair business in 2021 for $640,000 after taxes. 38 years under fluorescent lights. Hands deep in engines. Knuckles split open by stubborn bolts. I built that shop from a single hydraulic lift and a second-hand toolbox. By the time I sold it, we serviced 3 counties and had contracts with 2 delivery companies. I walked away with enough to retire modestly. Modestly. That was the plan. Daniel had other plans. Dad, he said one Sunday afternoon, sitting at this very kitchen table, tapping numbers into his phone calculator. The bank approved us for a mortgage, but the rate is 7.1%. It's insane. If we put down another $150,000, we can avoid private mortgage insurance. That's $480 a month saved. His wife, Claire, nodded solemnly. She always nods solemnly when money is being discussed, like a nurse confirming a diagnosis. How much is the house? I asked. $895,000. Daniel said, not blinking. But it's an investment. The school district alone. I wired them $200,000 on April 3, 2022. I remember because the azaleas were blooming outside the bank, and the teller congratulated me as if I were buying something for myself. That was only the beginning. Over the next 18 months, I transferred another $127,000. Kitchen renovation, $48,600. The granite is builder grade, Dad. New roof after unexpected storm damage, $22,400. Tuition for Ethan's private high school, $31,000 per year. Ballet academy for Lil Sophie, $9,800 annually. I did not keep a running total at first. Love is not an accountant, but accountants exist for a reason. The first time I felt it, the shift was subtle. November 2024. Sunday dinner at their house. Roast chicken, rosemary potatoes. Claire's kale salad no one actually eats. Daniel poured himself a second glass of Cabernet and said, half laughing, "You know, Dad, you're lucky we're good with money. Most guys your age get scammed out of their savings." Claire smiled. Or become dependent. Dependent. I was paying their property taxes. I'm not dependent, I said calmly. I just think we should be clear about what I've contributed. For everyone's sake. Daniel laughed. Actually laughed. Dad, come on. It's family. Why are you keeping score? Because the score was $327,000 and climbing. I'm not keeping score, I replied. I'm asking for respect. Transparency. Claire put down her fork. The clink against porcelain was sharp. Respect, she said. We've opened our home to you every Sunday. The kids adore you. I looked at Daniel. That's not what I meant. Oh, I know what you meant, he said, his voice cooling. You mean you want control. Control. I had given them control when I signed over this house. When I added Daniel to my primary checking account for convenience. When I stopped asking for copies of invoices because it's easier if I handle it, Dad. That night, I drove home in silence. The dashboard clock read 9:47 p.m. The radio murmured an old Springsteen song Margaret loved. I turned it off. In the kitchen under the yellow light, I opened my laptop, an aging Dell with a faint crack across the corner of the screen, and logged into my bank account. I wish I could say I was shocked. Between January and October 2025, there were transfers I did not remember authorizing. $12,500 labeled contractor advance, $8,900 school trip, Europe, $15,000 bridge loan. Bridge to where? Total unexplained withdrawals. $76,400. I sat there until midnight, scrolling, cross-referencing, my reading glasses sliding down my nose. My coffee had gone cold. My hands were steady. Margaret used to say I had the temperament of a slow-burning fuse. Hard to light, impossible to stop once it caught. The next Sunday, I brought printed statements in a manila folder. We were seated at their Marble Island $11, $200. I had paid for that too. Daniel, I began evenly, sliding the papers across. I need you to explain these. He didn't look at them immediately. He took a sip of coffee first. Deliberate. Claire glanced over his shoulder. Oh my God, she muttered. Are you auditing us? I'm asking where $76,400 went. Daniel's jaw tightened. Expenses. Which ones? Dad, he said louder now. Do you know how insulting this is? Insulting. Claire crossed her arms. Maybe you shouldn't have given money if it came with strings. Strings. I gave it because you said you needed help, I replied. Not because I wanted to be your silent investor. There it was. Daniel pushed the folder back toward me. If you don't trust us, he said, maybe you should stop coming over. Silence felt like a dropped plate. Sophie's laughter drifted in from the living room. Ethan was arguing with a video game. I looked at my son, my only child, the boy whose college tuition I had paid in full, $84,000 over 4 years. The boy who once cried because he didn't make varsity and I told him effort mattered more than applause. They laughed when I asked for respect. I would later tell my lawyer. But that afternoon, I simply stood up, put the papers back in the folder, and said very quietly, I see. And for the first time in my life, I realized that love without boundaries is just permission to be used. If you believe older voices still matter, support this channel with a like and a subscription. I did not call Daniel for 2 weeks after that Sunday. Not out of spite. I have never been good at theatrical silence. I simply needed to think without interruption, without Claire's careful tone or Daniel's impatient eyes slicing through my thoughts. The house felt larger than usual during those days. Too large for one man and his paperwork. I cleaned the gutters myself on November 3rd, 2025. Climbed the aluminum ladder Margaret always said was too flimsy. My knees protested, but I needed the ache. Physical pain is honest. It doesn't pretend to be generosity. On November 6th at 8:42 a.m., I walked into First National Bank on Bloomfield Avenue and asked to speak with a branch manager. Her name was Melissa Grant. Early 40s, neat bun navy blazer. The kind of face trained to remain neutral. I'd like to remove my son from my checking account, I said. She looked up sharply. Is there a problem, Mr. Whitaker? Yes, I replied. There is. We sat in a glass office that smelled faintly of lemon disinfectant. I handed her copies of the statements. These transfers, I said, tapping the page, were initiated online from his IP address. She typed for a moment, her fingers quick. They were authorized using the secondary account holder's credentials. Secondary, that word lodged in my throat. I never received transaction alerts, I said. You opted out in May 2024. I didn't remember doing that. Who made that change? She hesitated just long enough to answer my question without answering it. The change was made through the online portal. Daniel had insisted he would simplify my digital settings. I had handed him my laptop, grateful not to deal with passwords and two-factor codes. Simplify. I want him removed, I repeated. Of course. She printed documents. You'll need to sign here and here. I signed with a steady hand, January 14th, 1954. That's my birth date. I have signed enough contracts in my life to recognize when a signature feels like a boundary. When I stepped back outside, the air was sharp with the first hint of winter. I felt neither victorious nor devastated. Just clear. That clarity sharpened further a week later. On November 13th, I received a certified letter from Ridgefield Lending Group. The envelope was thick, officious. Inside was a notice regarding a home equity line of credit, $150,000, secured against my property. My property, opened August 2, 2025. Primary borrower, Daniel Whitaker. Co-borrower, Robert Whitaker. My name, typed neatly in black ink. I sat down at my kitchen table and read the document 3 times. The balance drawn, $98,000. Interest rate, variable, currently 8.4%. I did not remember signing any such agreement. My chest tightened, but not with panic, with something colder. I pulled out my file cabinet, the gray metal one I bought in 1998 when I first expanded the garage. In the bottom drawer, under tax returns and Margaret's medical bills, was the deed transfer from 2023. I had transferred title, yes, but the house had been fully paid off when I did so. No liens, no debt. Daniel could not have opened a line of credit without my signature, unless I examined the copy included in the letter. There it was, my name, slanted slightly left, like my handwriting, but not mine. The R was wrong. I looped my R's. This one was rigid. I drove to Daniel's house that evening without calling. Claire opened the door. She looked surprised, then guarded. Robert, this is unexpected. I need to speak with Daniel. He's working. At 7:30 p.m., her jaw tightened. Coming? The house smelled of lavender cleaner and something baking. Sophie's backpack lay open on the entry bench. A piano lesson schedule was pinned to the corkboard. $2.20 per month. Daniel emerged from his office, phone still in hand. What's wrong? He asked, already irritated. I placed a letter on the dining table. What is this? He glanced at it briefly. Oh, that. You forged my signature. His eyes flashed. Lower your voice. I will not lower my voice in a house I paid for. Claire stepped in quickly. Let's all calm down. Did you? I repeated. Or did you not sign my name? Daniel exhaled hard. It's a formality. You transferred the house to me. The bank just needed continuity. Continuity? I felt my control thinning. You borrowed $98,000. For renovations and debt consolidation, he snapped. Do you know how much pressure I'm under? I gave you $300,000. And it still wasn't enough, he shouted. The words hung in the air like smoke. Claire's face had gone pale. Daniel, you think your little folder of statements makes you a martyr, he continued. You had money sitting there. We needed liquidity. You stole my name. It's family, he barked. We're not strangers in a courtroom. The irony of that sentence would strike me later. Sophie appeared at the hallway entrance, eyes wide. Claire rushed to usher her back. Daniel ran a hand through his hair. Look, he said, lowering his voice. The house value is over $1 million now. This is leverage, smart leverage. At 8.4% interest? I asked quietly. With my forged signature? He didn't answer. Instead, he said something worse. If you can't handle modern finances, maybe you shouldn't involve yourself. There it was again. Age as incompetence. Concern as interference. I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. You have until December 1st, I said, to show me every document related to this loan, every invoice, every cent. And if I don't, he challenged. I looked at my son, really looked at him, at the lines stress had carved into his forehead, at the ambition that had curdled into entitlement. Then, I said evenly, I will ask someone else to request them. He scoffed. You wouldn't. He still believed I was bluffing. He still believed that because I was his father, I would choose humiliation over confrontation. I walked out without another word. In the car, my hands trembled for the first time. Not from fear, from anger. By the time I reached my driveway, the trembling had stopped. On November 15th at 10:00 a.m., I scheduled a consultation with an attorney specializing in financial fraud and property law. Her name was Angela Ruiz, and unlike my son, she did not laugh when I asked for respect. Angela Ruiz did not waste time with sympathy. She listened. That alone set her apart. Her office was on the 4th floor of a red brick building across from the courthouse. Frost clung to the windows that morning. November 18th, 2025. I remember because I arrived 20 minutes early and watched a man in a gray coat struggle with a parking meter that refused to accept his credit card. Inside, her office smelled faintly of coffee and toner ink. Neatly stacked files. No inspirational quotes on the wall. Just framed degrees and a state bar certificate dated 2009. Start from the beginning, she said, clicking her pen. So I did. The business sale in 2021. The $640,000. The $200,000 wire on April 3, 2022. The additional $127,000 over 18 months. The title transfer on March 12, 2023. The joint account access. The unexplained $76,400. The home equity line of credit opened August 2, 2025. The forged signature. She did not interrupt. She wrote dates. Dates matter more than emotions. When I finished, she leaned back. "Mr. Whitaker," she said calmly, "this is not a family misunderstanding. I assumed as much. This is potential fraud, forgery, and financial exploitation of a senior." Senior. The word did not sting coming from her. It sounded clinical, useful. "If I pursue this," I asked, "what happens?" She folded her hands. "First, we request certified copies of all loan documents from Ridgefield Lending. Second, we send a formal demand letter requiring full financial disclosure within 10 business days. Third, we notify the bank of suspected signature fraud and request a forensic handwriting analysis." "And my son?" She met my eyes directly. "If he forged your name, he's exposed to civil liability, possibly criminal." I swallowed. There is a strange sensation when justice aligns against your own blood. It feels like stepping off solid ground and discovering the air holds you anyway. "I don't want him in prison," I said quietly. "That's not entirely your choice," she replied. "But civil action can often resolve matters before prosecutors get involved." Resolve. On November 21st, she sent the demand letter. I saw it before it was mailed. 4 pages. Precise language. No insults. Just facts. Transfer of $327,000 between April 2022 and October 2024. Unauthorized withdrawals totaling $76,400 in 2025. Home equity line of credit opened August 2, 2025. Current draw $98,000. Suspected forged signature on loan agreement. The letter demanded 1. Full accounting of all funds received. 2. Immediate suspension of further draws on the credit line. 3. Repayment plan within 15 days. 4. Written explanation regarding signature authorization. It was sent certified. Return receipt requested. Paper. I learned that week has weight. Daniel called me the next morning at 6:58 a.m. "You hired a lawyer?" he said without greeting. "Yes." "What the hell is wrong with you?" I poured my coffee before answering. Let him hear the quiet clink of ceramic. "What's wrong?" I said evenly. "Is that you signed my name. You're blowing this out of proportion." "I asked for documents. You refused." He exhaled sharply. "Claire's in tears." "That is unfortunate. You're humiliating us." "Humiliating?" "No," I replied. "You did that yourself." There was a long silence. "You really want to go to court?" he asked finally. "I want transparency and repayment. You'll destroy this family." The irony again. "I didn't borrow $98,000 at 8.4% interest," I said. "You did." He hung up. On November 28th, Angela received copies of the loan documents. She called me into her office that afternoon. "The signature," she said, sliding the papers across her desk, "is not consistent with the exemplars you provided." She had asked me to sign my name 15 times on blank sheets during our previous meeting. I felt foolish doing it, like a schoolboy practicing cursive. Now I understood why. "The bank's internal notes," she continued, "indicate the documents were uploaded electronically. No in-person verification. So your son likely submitted a scanned version of your prior signature." I remembered signing the deed transfer in 2023. Multiple copies. Daniel had handled the scanning. Something inside me hardened permanently. "What are our next steps?" I asked. She did not hesitate. "We file a civil complaint." On December 3, 2025, in Essex County Superior Court, case number ESX L4921-25 was officially entered. Whitaker versus Whitaker. Plaintiff, Robert Whitaker. Defendant, Daniel Whitaker. The complaint alleged fraudulent misrepresentation, forgery, unjust enrichment, financial exploitation. Total damages sought, $501,400 plus legal fees. I stared at that number when she showed me. It looked obscene on paper. It was simply arithmetic. The first visible crack in Daniel's confidence came not from me, but from a sheriff. On December 6th at 2:17 p.m., he was served at his office, a logistics firm in Parsippany, open workspace, glass conference rooms, employees watching as a uniformed officer asked for him by name. He called me at 2:29 p.m. His voice was different, quieter. They served me in front of my staff. Yes. You couldn't have warned me? I did, I said calmly. On November 21st. You're my father. And you forged my name. Silence. Then something I had not heard from him in years. Fear. What do you want? He asked. I already told you. There are moments in a man's life when he chooses who he is. On December 6th, I chose not to be a victim disguised as a parent. That evening, I sat at Margaret's old desk and looked at her photograph. I asked for respect, I told her softly. Outside, the first real snow of the season began to fall. And for the first time since this began, I felt something unfamiliar. Not anger, not grief, control. The mediation was scheduled for January 12, 2026. Snow still lined the curbs in gray ridges, hardened by weeks of traffic. The courthouse steps were salted white, like bones laid out to dry. Angela met me in the lobby at 8:40 a.m. sharp. You slept? She asked. Like a mechanic before inspection day? I replied, lightly, but enough. Daniel arrived at 8:57. Not alone. Claire walked beside him, coat buttoned tight, jaw set in that familiar determined line. They did not approach me. They did not look at me. Their attorney, a tall man with rimless glasses and a briefcase that probably cost more than my first set of tools, shook Angela's hand. The conference room was windowless. Long mahogany table, a humming vent overhead, a box of tissues placed discreetly in the center, as if anticipating tears. The mediator, Judge Halpern, retired, began without ceremony. This is a civil matter, he said. Our goal is resolution. Resolution. Angela laid out the numbers calmly, methodically. $327,000 transferred between April 2022 and October 2024. $76,400 in unauthorized withdrawals in 2025. $98,000 drawn from the home equity line of credit. Projected interest accumulation. $8,232 annually at current rates. Total exposure. $501,400, excluding fees. Daniel's attorney responded with what I expected. Family contributions, gifts, informal arrangements. No criminal intent. No criminal intent. Angela slid the handwriting analysis across the table. The forensic examiner's conclusion was clear. The signature on the August 2, 2025 home equity agreement is not consistent with known exemplars of Robert Whitaker's handwriting. The room went quiet. Daniel did not look at me. He stared at the table. Judge Halpern folded his hands. Mr. Whitaker, he said to my son, forgery is not informal. Claire finally spoke. We were drowning, she said, her voice tight. The business was underperforming. Credit card balances hit $62,000. The kids' tuition. You chose private school, I said evenly. You told us to aim high. Daniel snapped. I told you to work hard, I replied, not to leverage my name. Angela placed another document forward. Bank statements from the Hellick account. $28,000, luxury SUV lease buyout. $14,600, Caribbean vacation, July 2025. $9,200, consulting retainer. $7,800, home theater installation. Drowning. Claire's eyes flickered across the numbers. Daniel's attorney cleared his throat. We are prepared to negotiate repayment. Negotiate. Judge Halpern turned to me. What outcome would satisfy you, Mr. Whitaker? The room held its breath. This was the moment. I thought about Margaret's hospital bills. $143,000 before insurance adjustments. I thought about the mornings I opened the garage at 5:30 a day, but I end February cold. I thought about Sophie's small hand in mine when she was 5, sticky with ice cream. I did not want revenge. I wanted balance. Full repayment of the $98,000 Hellick balance within 60 days. I said clearly. Closure of the credit line. Immediate removal of my name from all associated liabilities. Repayment of the $76,400 unauthorized withdrawals over 12 months. An acknowledgement in writing that the signature was unauthorized. Daniel finally looked at me. His face was pale. You're going to bankrupt us, he said. You already tried to bankrupt me, I answered. Claire's composure cracked first. You could have just talked to us. I did, I said. In your kitchen. You laughed. Silence fell heavy. Judge Halpern leaned back. This is a reasonable proposal given the evidence. If this proceeds to trial, exposure increases significantly. Daniel's attorney whispered to him. Claire wiped her eyes, furious at the tears. After 20 minutes, they agreed. The terms were formalized that afternoon. Halleck paid in full via refinancing under Daniel's sole credit. $76,400 structured repayment at $6,366 per month beginning February 1, 2026. Written affidavit acknowledging unauthorized use of signature. Removal of Daniel from any residual financial authority over my accounts. Each party responsible for their own legal fees. I signed last. My hand did not tremble. When we exited the building, snow began falling again, soft, deliberate flakes. Daniel approached me hesitantly. Dad, he began. I waited. I didn't think you'd actually go through with it. That, I said quietly, was the problem. Claire did not speak to me. They walked to their car together, shoulders tense, future heavier than when they arrived. I stood there a moment longer. Angela joined me. You did the right thing, she said. Did I? You enforced a boundary. Boundaries, such a simple word, so expensive to ignore. 2 months later, the Halleck was closed. I received official confirmation from Ridgefield Lending on March 3, 2026. Balance, $0. Account terminated. The first repayment installment arrived February 1st. Direct deposit. No message attached. I do not expect one. I updated my will that spring. Daniel remains a beneficiary, but not the executor, not the trustee, not the man holding the pen. I established a $100,000 vocational scholarship in Margaret's name at the County Technical School. Kids who want to work with their hands. Kids who understand that money is earned before it is spent. Daniel found out through the local paper. He did not call. Some evenings, the house feels quiet in a different way now. Not lonely, just honest. Last week, Sophie sent me a drawing in the mail. A stick-figure grandfather with a toolbox. Grandpa fixes things, she wrote in careful pencil. I placed it on the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a wrench. They laughed when I asked for respect. So I asked a lawyer instead. And in the end, respect cost them far more than money. It cost them the illusion that I would always stay silent. The last payment arrived on January 3, 2027. $6,366. No cents missing. No note attached. I watched the transaction settle in my account at 9:14 a.m. The small green confirmation icon appearing beside it like a quiet period at the end of a long sentence. 12 months. $76,400 returned in disciplined installments. The Halleck closed. My name cleared. The affidavit acknowledging unauthorized signature notarized and filed. Paperwork complete. You would think that is where relief would come. It didn't. Relief is noisy in movies. In real life, it is quiet and slightly hollow. I made myself coffee, 2 level scoops, same as always, and stood at the kitchen window. The maple tree in the yard was bare. January light is unforgiving. It shows every crack in the paint, every uneven line in the siding. I am 72 now. Age does not frighten me. What frightened me, what truly unsettled me, was how close I had come to disappearing inside my own generosity. There is a peculiar humiliation in being exploited by someone you taught to tie their shoes. For months after the mediation, Daniel and I did not speak. Birthdays passed. Thanksgiving came and went. I received a short text on Christmas morning. Hope you're well. I replied, I am. That was the extent of it. Claire never contacted me again. I do not blame her entirely. Ambition can be contagious. So can fear. Debt has a way of turning love into arithmetic. In March, I sold the Cedar Grove house. Not out of necessity, out of clarity. The appraisal came in at $1,120,000. I listed it for $1,095,000 and accepted $1,080,000 within 10 days. Clean offer. No contingencies beyond inspection. When I walked through the empty rooms before closing, the floors echoed differently. Margaret's sugar bowl had already been packed. The old Cuisinart sat in a box marked kitchen essentials. I ran my hand along the wall near the hallway where pencil marks once measured Daniel's height year by year. Growth is easy to record when it is physical. Character is harder. At closing, I signed my name carefully. The R looped properly. I moved into a smaller townhouse 20 miles north. 2 bedrooms. 1-car garage. No grand staircase. No yard to rake. Efficient. The proceeds from the sale, combined with what remained of my business funds, left me with more than enough to live comfortably without depending on anyone. Independence tastes better when it's chosen. The scholarship fund in Margaret's name awarded its first 2 recipients in September 2026. A girl named Tasha studying diesel mechanics. A boy named Miguel apprenticing in electrical systems. At the ceremony, the principal shook my hand and said, "It's rare to see someone invest in trades these days." I smiled. "Someone invested in me once," I said. That night, I received an email from Daniel. Subject line, "Saw the article." He wrote, "I didn't know you were doing that. It's good, I guess." I read it twice. Then I typed back, "Your mother believed in building things that last." He responded an hour later, "Dad, I was wrong." 4 words. He did not elaborate. He did not apologize directly for the forgery. That had already been done on notarized paper. But something in the tone had shifted. Humility is quiet. We met for coffee in October. Neutral ground. A diner off Route 23 with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tastes slightly burnt. He looked older, thinner. The sharpness in his posture had softened. "They refinanced at 9.2%, he said at one point. "It's tight." I nodded. "Debt is expensive." He stirred his coffee for too long before speaking again. "I thought you'd always bail me out." "I did," I said calmly. "For years." He met my eyes then. "And then you didn't." "No," I agreed. "I didn't." There was no anger in the conversation, only facts. When we stood to leave, he hesitated. "I want the kids to know you," he said quietly. "They can," I replied, "without my bank account." A small, strained smile crossed his face. "That's fair." Fair. It is a simple word. It carries weight. We are not what we were. Perhaps we never will be. But there is a strange kind of respect in boundaries once they are enforced. Sophie visited me last month. She's taller now, 12 years old. She brought her math homework and complained about fractions. "Grandpa," she said suddenly, looking around my smaller living room, "why did you move?" I considered lying. Instead, I told her the truth in a way she could carry. "Because sometimes," I said, "when people forget to treat you well, you have to remind them." She thought about that seriously. "Did they forget?" "For a little while," I said. She nodded, as if filing the lesson away. When she left, she hugged me tightly. Not out of obligation, out of affection. That is the difference. I do not regret hiring Angela Ruiz. I do not regret filing Whitaker versus Whitaker. I regret only that it was necessary. But if I had done nothing, if I had swallowed the humiliation and signed whatever paper was placed in front of me, I would have taught my son the worst lesson of all, that love means access. It does not. Love means care. Respect means boundaries. And sometimes the only way to protect both is to put your name, properly signed, on a line drawn in ink. They laughed when I asked for respect. Now they knock before entering. And that, in the end, is worth every dollar.